Hello everyone, this is the Guild Wars 2 World Championship we're leading up to, and another look at a qualifying matchup we saw during the season. Obviously the brackets on your screen are for the World Championship themselves. You can see Never Lucky there versus TCG, and we're having a look at them versus Team Peasy in the NA Qualifier. They did win this series as well, just so you know. This is all spoilers, so basically that's a thing. So Team PZ red team, Never Lucky blue team. You can see Team PZ obviously running with a familiar kind of lineup that we saw a lot in EU. But on the right hand side, something a bit different. Obviously, Moob's going for that Guardian, as well as Oron going for the Thief, and he's going to be going for that Staff. Now the thing about the Thief and the Staff is that it's got a lot of evasion, it's got a lot of damage as well. You can see it literally just then on his dodge, he performs a lot of cleave damage, can get high critical damage on targets, and as obviously, you know, it's still fairly mobile around this map specifically, because obviously, you know, Thieves and their ports. Then we of course have the Druid, as well as the Engineer and the Revenant. So, you know, not so much those classes which are unusual, but having the Guardian and the Thief is specifically different, especially since they won the game as well. So having a look at Java, you can see that he's actually gone for Soul Reaping over Blood Magic, which we actually saw more so on the EU, and obviously, you know, Blood Magic is going to give him more DPS over the Soul Reaping, of course. So, you know, and obviously, you know, we can see the signets there going for, of course, like signets of suffering and whatnot in the traits. Now the Engineer, of course, going for a very similar build that we normally see, and similar to the Revenant and the other players as well on this side of things. As we get closer to the Guardian though, we will stop for a moment and just quickly look through the build that Moobs is indeed using, because it's going to be, you know, it's something to spot out, because we don't see it a hell of a lot. Now, Mr. Moobs went for a lot more damage than I expected. Didn't go for the additional Condi remove, even with Java running, obviously, what he's running. But Java was going for the more survivable version. So he wasn't even putting out as much damage as he probably could have been. Which is maybe something Team PZ should have maybe thought about a little bit more, in terms of, you know, going for a bit more of the maybe EU variant or the EU test of that build. But, you know, they've been running it, teams have been running it for a bit of time now. And if you can see it on his build as well, what he's running things like, you know, Master of Consecration. He's got that Supreme Justice instead of Absolute Resolution, which is, you know, additional condition remove. But maybe he felt that he just didn't need it. So, you know, maybe he felt that that was enough, and he didn't need to go for that. But Dragon Hunter wise, of course, has just gone for Piercing Light and Hunter's Determination, which is normally what you would see people go for. And that's gain Aegis and drop fragments of Faith Trap at your location when you're inflicted with stun, daze, knockback, pull, knockdown, etc. And that gives Aegis. And then Heavy Light, of course, is the knockback and stability as well. So, you know, that's understandable on the longbow, but normally we've seen people going for, you know, double main hand and offhand sets, you know, Mace Shield or like Sword Shield, whatever you want to say. But here we go, he's going to go for the sword and also for the focus. So that is his build. And on this map, it's not bad at all, you know. He's able to get some mobility with his sword. He's able to, you know, perform well with his longbow, ranging over the map from different locations. You've got a lot of verticality in this map, so he's going to be quite good for that. And he's obviously got his ports as well. So, you know, the sword is obviously great for that, as well as, you know, Judge's intervention and whatnot as well. So, tiny bit of a questionable build for the Guardian, but hey-ho, Moobs is, you know, he's pretty bloody good on the Guardian, on the Dragon Hunter specifically. So not questioning him too much. We'll have to see how it goes in this game for him and the rest of the team. Obviously, you know the result. So obviously it didn't fare too badly in the end. Having a look at Olron's build on the Thief though, you can see that he's not gone for the typical build whatsoever. Shortbow and Staff. Shortbow obviously being good for just ranging on the side of the fights, as well as mobility. So on this map, it's extremely important that he has that. And the Staff does a lot of damage. It evades a lot of attacks as well. It's very strong in that circumstance. And then obviously, you know, over in the Daredevil, he's gone for Brawler's Tenacity. He's also gone for Escapist's Absolution, as far as I remember. And and obviously bounding dagger at Dodger as well. As I lose my voice and I can't speak, because I'm not used to talking about this build, not used to talking about the traits particularly he's chosen, and a lot of actual cleave comes out in terms of the damage that he's able to bring just by dodging into a fight, but he avoids getting that swiftness, of course, that unhindered combatant gives him over in that Grandmaster in Daredevil. So you have to watch out for that, because the thief in the 1v1s, this build is pretty strong. It's he can avoid a lot of attacks, he removes conditions from Escapist's Absolution as well, because he can evade attacks quite a lot. Now, early on here, you can already see, we saw the Druids fighting against each other, and now Henge is actually capped in the favour of the Druid. So they're 1v1ing at the moment, and Paul knows that, and moves away in the end, and realises that a bit too late. But the thing is that Blue Team do have a down out over on the midpoint as well. So you can see that Jeff is having no end of issues, and PZ have already dispensed of someone that can perform a lot of rezzing potential for their team. So that's already quite a good start for Never Lucky, Other than the death, okay, they've got the henge point still, and they've been able to get their close point, but they've stuck the Druid over on that point to grab it. But of course, as they've had to move to mid to replace Jeff, Paul's simply just gone out, and he's very mobile. Teams are going to have to watch out for in the finals, because he gets around a lot. And I mean that in the sense of, obviously, the map, guys, calm down. But anyway, as we look back on the rest of the map, you can see, obviously, by that fight, Team PZ have been able to come back over on the windmill. K-Pod is having a fair few issues and needs to regroup with the rest of his team, which is the best option for them to currently do. But now, Never Lucky are doing a good job at just contesting everywhere else where the fights are currently occurring. See, K-Pod is still having issues. Again, the Druids are the ones who are out of the fight. We saw that on EU quite a lot. The Druids are mainly the 1v1ers, keeping the points contested or waiting for someone to attend. But you can see, again, the Thief, how effective he is, because Auron gets the decap there. And while, Team PZ are trying to fight Never Lucky, they're not thinking about the actual caps themselves, and they do make these mistakes a fair few times, as far as I remember. But that's kind of important, because obviously the caps are going to give you the actual points on the map. Obviously the kills can snowball in your favour, but they're not getting that many at the moment, and in fact they lose someone over on the midpoint. Okay, we see the res come out, which is important, but the Thief is going to be very sneaky, and Auron is just an absolute pain in the arse. He just is. That's the way he... I'm not saying, he's the worst person in the world. It's just a pain in the arse. But in terms of playing against him, he's getting those decaps. He's being annoying on the sides. He's able to come in with some nice damage as well. And, they feel him throughout the 2 games of this series they play. They feel the pain of Auron being just an annoyance on the map, which is great, obviously, for Never Lucky, and is going to be a positive boon for them in the finals. Now, obviously, over on the midpoint with the Druid here, we need to be careful that he gets out of there okay in the end, as he's distracting as much as possible, which allows, again, Never Lucky to 2v1 over on the mansion. Now Paul gets away, obviously, but the thing is that, Team PZ allowed that for a long time. Now, you could say that Paul was, distracting 2 members, but he's very low here, and in the end goes down. So how much that did Team PZ a favour in the end. It didn't do them so well, and still Never Lucky can sustain around the map, even when they're 1v2 over on the midpoint, and get the kills elsewhere, because they're moving from fight to fight, and they're able to sustain a lot longer, surprisingly, versus this team. Because we've even got the Guardian here, who comes in with a lot of damage, and the Guardian actually has a lot more sustain than you do realise, but still, Team BZ are getting caught out here everywhere, even in the roads, and the Engineer and the Mesmer on Team PZ can't even get down to help, unfortunately. So at the end of the day, currently in the moment, you're seeing Paul, who's being a pain in the arse. You can see, Never Lucky able to sustain themselves long enough to win 2v1s quicker than Team PZ at the moment, and they've got the full advantage on the map with K-Pod down as well. So, there's a little bit of, hopefully, insight, we'll say, into what's going on. So they need to be careful about this for Team PZ right now and try and learn from it. They start to improve a little bit. You can see Moobs at the moment as well, doing a lot of damage, but he's probably in a bit of a wrong position here. Needs to get up top as soon as possible. They've got Zeus down in the downstate. He's gone over to Scrapper here, and they want to try and come in for the res. Very risky, but they do get it in the end. But the thing is, they've taken a lot of damage here. But here, see, Team PZ, now they've actually had to move Java out because the focus comes onto the Necro, and it's very important they get him down. I actually think that Java moved out of position a bit too early, and because of that, you know, they've actually lost other members on the map as well, and Paul is currently in the down state. So, not a great position for Team PZ to be in. I think that if Java was going to die there, he probably should have just died up top and not made it so difficult for his team to res him, unfortunately. But, you know, we could look back again at another time and look at that situation. But, again, K-Pod, it feels like Team PZ are always running away. They're always on the back foot in this game. Other than, you know, that kind of ish positive start they kind of had at the beginning, which, you know, still wasn't great. So as they regroup, it's important here that they come back positively. Now, free cap occurs as well. Remember the thief, okay, he hasn't got swiftness, but he can still port up onto the midpoint and port down, and, you know, he's still very mobile on this map, even with the staff and the short bow, and obviously that Grandmaster, which is not giving him the swiftness. And you can see at the moment, you know, they had the free cap. They don't want to fight for the third because it's a bit risky for them, because obviously Team BZ can just roll over them if they get that control back. So they're sensible. They give away the windmill, and that's a good thing to do because, you know, they've got the point buffer they need. They've still got the lead, and now it's important that Team PZ group up for a massive team fight potentially, but they have to watch out for their back points. And that's, you know, Auron's pulled back over towards the windmill, who's just challenged Paul a little bit. And, you know, Auron can get up to midpoint a lot quicker than he can. So now Paul's so paranoid that he's left there. He literally has to stand on the windmill for a while. And elsewhere, you know, players are able to take people out. You can see Auron has already moved over towards the mid to potentially take out K-Pod there, and that's happened. So, you know, obviously Paul has to go back, then he has to come back into the fight. He's delayed, he's paranoid, he's staying on the point for a little bit too long because he feels he has to, because he doesn't know where Paul is. So maybe, you know, there's a little bit of a lack of communication, but K-Pod going into the downstate was pretty quick. So if that happens, you know, what can Paul do? Is he going to just stick on the point and keep it? Or is he going to go and save K-Pod, who's already been plussed up on, and Paul's just going to die, and they're going to lose the cap? So, you know, Paul probably in the end made a better decision. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, again, you know, Never Lucky really pushing onto that third capture point. Obviously, they did lose the mansion over there on the other side of the map. And Auron going down elsewhere. I wish I had the time to pause this map and talk about specific rotations, but it's just timing. You know, I've got so much on at the moment, work's going crazy, and obviously, you know, we've got the finals this week, so I'm kind of bashing through this quite quickly. But again, you can see Java's gone down here over on the midpoint, and Team PZ do start to come back here. You can see again the strength of the engineer with the res, as well as, you know, there wasn't much cleave coming out from the Never Lucky team. So if we have a look at the map and see where Auron's going again, guess where? You can guess where he's going. It's permanent. He's going to Windmill once again. He's going to drag the players out of that fight that Never Lucky are losing at the moment. And as soon as it becomes a bigger team fight, it doesn't feel as if Team PZ. It feels as if Team PZ are going to be able to pull it off a little bit better than obviously their counterparts there. So obviously Zeus is going to get the res. There's no chance in hell of that not happening. And Team PZ have got good coverage right now, whereas Never Lucky seem to be a bit split up over in the roads with Moobs and Jeff currently down. There's no way that the Druid is going to be able to get this, so he needs to move out. He's just trying to, I think he's just trying to hold him here for as long as possible, and actually Hypno comes in as well, goes down in the end. So they're really hanging out here while Auron is actually just being busy elsewhere on the map. Now there's nothing he can do here. He's lost two players. He can't really challenge midpoint. All he can do is look after the windmill, so he follows the Mesmer back over towards the point, and slowly but surely, you know, Auron will lose the cap because he'll go off the node a fair bit here and there, but obviously just evading that damage. You can see he does get caught with a shield 5 there from the Mesmer, but he knows Jeff's coming in as well, and Muffins knows that that's not a great situation for him to be in. He's just poking while the rest of the blue team are coming into the map. It's important he regroups to make sure that they can possibly outnumber while someone's guarding that windmill node, and that's going to be the Druid over on Never Lucky. So now as we go into the midpoint, we've got a little bit more of a team fight going down. You can see a lot of the focus comes onto K-Pod Capard here once again. Himself and Java have been pretty big main targets. But you can see the sustain that comes out in this team fight situation. How much health is currently coming onto Team PZ. They've got more support there. Obviously, they've even got the Druid in this fight as well. He's just kind of skirting on the edges though, watching out for Auron to make sure he doesn't get the decap and making sure he's around. But you can see how much sustain Team PZ in, so they need to think about more of these team fights. But as it starts to go on, you see people start to fall. And Capard, unfortunately, I think he goes in a bit too far here in the position where, the cleave is really horrible that comes out from Never Lucky. And they're able to even take Java into the downstate as well. Really remember this moment in a team fight that I wasn't expecting them to lose because the amount of sustain they had. But, there was a little bit of impatience there. I think, Capard just went a bit too far in terms of what he was doing there. But, still not too bad for Team PZ in this situation. Now, even Paul's back into the point. They've got a lot of sustain. Java does go down again. Of course, he gets res from before. But, it's looking unlikely that he might get back up. But he gets jumped upon again. And Zeus, there's too much pressure there. Zeus has to get out. Obviously, going for that healing turret over the medic gyro there as well. And he, surprisingly enough, just as I look down at his utility bar, he's not running exactly what I thought he would be. He's not going for the purge gyro. There isn't a massive amount of conditions on this team, so he's obviously adjusted his build for that. So he's got for Elixir S, which is going to help him in terms of his survival and avoiding some of that extra damage. Especially if, he's getting a precision strike on him as well, is unfortunate. But Zeus is walking into a world of pain there. He's trying to regroup with his team, but they're so under pressure. And you can see the pressure is really on Team PZ, and they start to make mistakes throughout this game. Okay, over on the midpoint, we've got the challenge of Muffins over on that node. But at the moment, they're being wiped out over towards the windmill. They've tried to regroup for a bit of a team fight situation, but everything's just fallen apart for these guys. And really, Never Lucky played a pretty good game. And it's part of the reason, and this is not to try and take anything away from Team PZ. I want people to be aware that I'm not bashing teams, but you need to be honest and, talk about specifics when teams are performing, because otherwise, I'm not doing my job. I'm not saying what I think and what I feel is happening and how teams and people make mistakes. And people they can get a bit butthurt. I'm not going to lie. They can get a bit hurt by people saying, they didn't do great in this situation. But sometimes, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot on the line. And actually, you'd argue that probably even Never Lucky winning this series wasn't the best thing in the world, because they're potentially going against the people in the first round of the tournament who are going to win it. So, who's really won at the end of the day? I think Team PZ probably quite happy they lost this series in the end. So, there's a little bit of that, and I'm not saying they would have lost on purpose, but who wants to go up against TCG in your first LAN ever? It's definitely not Never Lucky, so obviously that's the case there. So let's go on to the second series, of course, and that's going to be on Temple of the Silent Storm. Never Lucky are 1-0 up in probably what was one of my favourite games of the entire weekend of the World Championship Qualifier. 1-0, it's best of 3, of course. This is a interesting map for both teams. How do you deal with a thief? Alright, the thief has not got the swiftness there. And I don't believe he changes it, because that bound is very important for his damage for the cleave that comes out, and obviously the evasion he gets as well. He's getting more endurance from that build. Good old Auron there as well. Moobs is going to be very slow on this map as well. So, there's a few different things they have to think about and contest. And obviously with the buffs that come out as well, there's various places they need to match up quite well. Now, Team PZ, obviously, I'm assuming, I think I remember they were screaming Never Lucky, or they were screaming various teams before they came. And going up against a team with a Guardian and a Thief with this build, which is ridiculous, by the way, is a challenge in itself, because you have to change your gameplay. Even you can just see it, Zeus changing up. Just the utility is so important. He's obviously got that extra gyro there to give him the sustain. He's got instead the Elixir S, which is going to proc, and he's going to be able to survive some damage, evade attacks there. So people obviously are changing things up. You can see what Olren's running there as well. He's going for a little bit more defensive utilities in terms of, the blocking. He's still got his ports though. But, the staff is very evasive. And having a look at moves as well, you can see still going with the same utilities and traits there. So we're going to be getting this game started fairly soon. Of course, you know what happens. Having a look back over the build as well, you can see that the Guardian running that Paladins, nothing much has changed there indeed. And we will be staying with the focus and the sword as well. So, what can Team PZ in this game needs to think about their matchups. They need to also think about Auron again, being that pain in the arse, which I keep saying. Again, I like Auron. He's not generally a pain in the arse in life. He's just, a bit of a pain in the arse in these series and these games, and that is exactly what I will say in the finals. Probably not so much the arse word, because obviously it's live and it's ESL and it's professional, and that's not going to happen. So I will say arse as many times as I like to. Enough of that. Anyway, let's get talking about the game and what's going on the map. This is the last chance that Team PZ have to come back in this series. Again, there's the one that they know who they will potentially be going up against in terms of the final, the actual tournament itself, if they lose or whatever as well. So they don't obviously want to be going up against the people that I mentioned before, the TCGs. So, well, neither team does, but depending on how well they're performing, obviously they came third and they got that last seed for EU, so maybe they're thinking, maybe it'll be okay, but still you've got that in the back of your mind. Anyway, let's talk about the present time, what's going on. You see the stealth coming out from Team PZ, obviously that's from the Druid there, and Paul will challenge the Guardian on the other side of the map, doing again something similar that they did before. We're committing someone to the far point. Team PZ are committing 4 people to mid. Now they will be outnumbering on the midpoint, and they're relying upon that once again so that they can get that early kill, which is something they tried again over on that Kylo map. So they already lose some points because, the cap comes out obviously over on the altar, and Paul is against someone again who obviously is not going to die very quickly. But they do get that kill onto Jeffs as they have been outnumbered. So, never lucky. They probably know this in their mind, but they do have the side caps in favour of themselves. Now, Paul at the moment isn't really doing much on this side of the map. In fact, he's getting some damage onto the moves. Moves is having a bit of a time here, but if Neverlucky can get some additional kills, they can collapse over towards the altar, and that is exactly what's starting to happen. As move starts to get lower, Jess comes over for the extra support, and maybe can even switch out, which is exactly what happens there. So good stuff. But because obviously they've put that focus over towards the midpoint, Neverlucky have lost the advantage that they had, and Altar Temple has now been taken. They're just trying to push PZ away, but they do get the midpoint win as well, and now Team PZ are kind of caught in the roads again, losing members. Java is taken down here, should easily get rezzed. As you can see, obviously, I was going to say Zan there, Zeus is around, and even Paul, offering up that stealth that from the Druid is so good for them to reposition and get out of the map. The thing is, the Druid on the side of Neverlucky does get back in time. Unfortunately for themselves though, moves has gone down, and Jeffs did have to try and escape down to the bottom of the map there as well, getting into a very low state of mind. Elrond does go down for the potential res here, but it's very, very risky in the end, because he's still a thief. He's not actually dodging or anything. He does get it in the end, and that's a good thing to come out as well, because obviously there's not much cleave just coming from the one man there, and the res wasn't too difficult to grab. Still, Neverlucky are on the back foot of things. Jeffs has obviously been taken out down below, and Auron is having a few issues himself, as well as Hypno. Hypno had he did have a fairly good series. Look at this as an example of how he survived quite well versus 2 players here. I do believe he gets mowed as well shortly as I'm pretty sure as soon as he goes under this bridge. Oh yeah, he does. But still, quite high HP. He used his heal. I think we did see Team PZ heal him up a bit there as well, and gets away almost to his team members, but he's still really on the back foot. He's used a lot of cooldowns, and still Team PZ do a good job. They need to keep the focus on him because he's lost a lot. But we see stealth coming out, as well as extra defensive utility and healing from the team. And Hypno does go down in the end. There's not really a lot that Never Lucky could have done against that. And again, they're in this team fight situation, and you can see how bad it is for them. This is probably more the way it should have gone over on Kylo on that midpoint I was talking about before. Because really, Team PZ have got a better team comp. They've got a better team fight. They should be winning those. In my opinion, I really feel like that is the thing. And that is why Blue Team are starting to move out to the sides, plus up where they can, potentially on the temple, on the altar as well. But here, I really feel like the Druid just stayed a bit too long. I mean, we're going to see Jeff's getting that stillness, I do believe, unless the Mesmer does come in for the actual interrupt. He does. But here, Never Lucky, they're losing out all over the shop. They've not been able to get stillness. They've committed someone there. The choice for now, the Guardian for Jeff, is now, do I have to contest stillness, because otherwise I'm giving them, double caps on the 2 cap, which is a 4 cap, and you don't want that happening. So he has to do that in a way. And now he's 1v2, and they want to get the kill on him. And if they keep getting these kills, one kill after another, they're just walking into the map one after the other, slowly losing the points. And now Never Lucky have to defend it even more because of the free cap that comes out. Obviously, that gets decapped. But Team PZ still commit even 2-3 people over towards the midpoint just to kill one member. And, they need to think about that, because the Druid is doing a great job, because the longer that you can keep 3 people away, the more chance they've got potentially +1ing here over on the temple. But obviously, the Mesmer did have a portal there, which wasn't too bad. So, Druid goes down in the end as well. Paul is down and out over towards the altar node. And you can really see, in these fights, like Team PZ are really getting into these team fight situations a lot more, which, benefits them a lot more than the actual Never Lucky team. They do have stillness, though, in the 2 side caps, so they are coming back quite considerably now. But as soon as they start to split up, they're able to, conquer the map. They've got a lot of mobility, but also they still have the Guardian, who's very, very slow. Java does go down over on the mid node as well. So much damage comes in from that Guardian, as well as Olrun as well, just dodging in and doing a hell of a lot of damage. And they start to push members away of Team PZ over towards that temple node. They're thinking about defense as well as pressure on the mid, which means that Team PZ are not, they're not going for the pressure on the altar. So, they were gaining a little bit of a lead, but obviously, we've seen the temple decap there as well, and Java going down. With Zeus, you're going to see them together, like we talked about before in previous series that we've done these videos on. The Necro and the Scrapper are going to stay together a hell of a lot because of that because of that duo that is so successful with the function gyro, which can get the res, of course. So now you can see kind of Hypno. You see Hypno running away a lot. He's always piling on the pressure. He's actually a really, really good rev. And now we see down towards the Tranquility, whether or not Jeffs is going to be able to grab that. Of course, he's got a little bit of contention from Zeus there. And Zeus going down isn't the best thing, unless the Necro goes down as well. Because obviously, the Necro needs Zeus. He needs him. Like I said, between Zan and Tex being rank 55, it's almost like, that one true love. You need them in your life to keep you alive. And I'm not saying that's not love advice for everyone. But, and over here, you can see, obviously, Hypno's down. He's got Death Shroud, so it's going to be fine to take him out into the down state. But Java probably will get this and move down towards the bottom, as far as I remember. I can't remember every single game I cast, but that would probably be one of the best options. He does, he is going down. It looked like he wasn't indeed. So now he can team up with Zeus, because obviously they got the kill, but they need to think about the guy rezzing and getting back into the map. So obviously he's still in down state, so still got a bit of time, 20 seconds maybe, until he comes back into the game, and that's to full death and then to respawn as well. And they've been able to get the kill onto Jess, but Team Never Lucky are sending members down as well, and Auron is now just being a pain around the sites. He's a thief, he can bail out a bit, nip back in, just get the hit on the guy who's trying to get the tranquility buff. He can dodge, he can evade. He's going to be able to get a bit more endurance for his build. He's got staff to evade as well, so he can still be a pain in the neck down there. Whereas, you know, if they've only got 1v1 and Java's not got the scrapper to help him out, he could be taken down a lot easier. Obviously, we have distortion from the Mesmer, which is great for rezzing, but still, you know, it's going to be a bit difficult. You can see even Hypno's having some problems, even though he does evade a lot of that damage there. There's still a lot of focus even on him. But the thing is, you know, we've got, again, Team PZ grouping up, getting a bit of a kill there as well, and then moving over to mid. Hopefully for them, they can defend this node. Sorry, they want to defend the node, not hopefully for them, because obviously it's in the past. But yeah, they can push away members here. Jeff's is just being, you know, it's just being distracting, I think, more than anything here. Hypno is able to grab that temple cap, and obviously the druid can sustain over on the left-hand side on the altar. Still got this 1v1 between Auron and Zeus, and you may be thinking, what's happening here? Zeus should be winning this. This is the staff. He's evading. Look at that dodge. Look at that bound he's got. He's able to avoid a lot of damage because of this build that he does indeed have. That bounding dodger, of course, is just, you know, you get the free dodges and you can just do damage as well. So, and you get increased physical damage after you dodge as well, which is another thing. So, you know, even when he's avoiding, he's doing damage. That's ridiculous. And with the staff as well, you know, he's able to evade a lot more. So Team PZ are trying to challenge this altar. Now, with Tranquility, this is when things start to really go wrong for Team PZ. Not right specifically now, but as members start to pile down towards the bottom, a lot of this game rests on this capture. Now, Jeffs gets almost a free stillness cap here. As you can see it being channeled up top, and Never Lucky get the double cap. So they've got 2 versus 1 cap now. You can see, obviously this is stillness. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you get double cap points for the capture points you have, and it's a very important buff. And it was a very important thing to get to switch, start to bring them back into the game. And obviously even Paul here, you know, uses the fact that Hypno is just a beast at surviving and using all his evades just so well that, you know, there's nothing that Zeus can do to catch up with the decap. So not only do they get the stillness, but they get the decap over on the midpoint. Now, Auron can come back down and they can 2v1 this member. And to the fact where, you know, Zeus comes back. Because if he stays up top and goes for the midpoint cap, they're going to lose that fight, and they'll just lose a member, and then Zeus will stay down. He'll get killed because, you know, other people are busy elsewhere on the map. There's no way they can move currently other than someone who's on temple potentially, which I think is even, you know, potentially a waste of time. I know it's difficult versus the engineer, the blue team engineer versus the Mesmer is difficult, but still I feel like he beneficial wise that he could have been down here, but then, you know, the engineer would have been elsewhere as well, so forcing him out of the fight. But it's not going great for Team PC, and really that combination of Auron and Hypno down there was so great. I mean, okay, they're quite low on HP, but Team PZ are losing the game at the moment because they've got no capture points. Now it happens that we have seen the decup coming out from the Mesmer, because obviously Jeffs has been pretty hard challenged here, obviously with the conditions that are coming out there as well. So Hypno and also Auron quite low. We do see a nice mower coming out there as well onto Auron, but a nice mower. But, you know, we can see obviously Zeus now jumping around. Now I really feel like as well Zeus, he was definitely going for obviously Elixir X. Whether or not that was the best choice, you know, a stealth gyro might have been a bit more useful for them in this map, but, you know, that's the thing. So they get 2 members down the end, and look, the worst person to come in and possibly res these guys up has come down. Now, this is where they get desperate. And I'm not saying it to be mean. It's the only choice they had. Because if they were able to get anyone up, probably, as well, they want to contest this. So rather than put people on the map, they're forcing more and more people down into this bottom end. And they can really cleave up, at least get so much damage onto Paul that he's going to be pressured off or even killed. And you can see here he stays for too long, and they just commit one after the other, and it becomes almost this kind of solo queue mentality where people are being put down below in a desperate attempt to save things. And, you know, it was not great from Team PZ. They really fell apart, and they can't do that in the finals, and they really can't. They almost need to go back to this kind of season 2 play that we saw. Obviously they won season 2, but in this game, you could really feel the pressure on these guys, and Never Lucky took full advantage. And Paul and Hypno down there were doing absolutely great. Some of the decisions Paul came out with were fantastic. I've got to be careful to not boost his ego too much. But obviously the rest of the members moved. You can tell, like, as well, being in that Guardian, he piled on the pressure, was doing well in his 1v1s as well. And they switched him out when he was inevitably going to have trouble with people like Paul on the Druid, and they switched him out. You know, they brought the more sustaining character in, the Engineer, and the Engineer didn't... The Engineer wasn't locked to a Necro because they didn't have a Necro there. So that's one... There's a positive from all these games about having the Necro and the Engineer. Yes, it's a powerful combination, but the Scrapper is almost tied to the Necromancer. If the Necromancer isn't pulling his weight and doing his job, the Engineer, the Scrapper, is just, you know, he's just a respo. He's just rezzing people and, you know, trying to put pressure where possible, and they're losing out. Now, thankfully for the EDU teams, obviously, you know, their Necro's doing all the work, but with Never Lucky, they've not got the Necro that the Engineer has to worry about, so he can free roam around the map and do what he wants to do, or needs to do, and that's obviously a powerful boon for them. So, you know, not a bad composition from Never Lucky. Whether or not they'll pull out the Thief, the Daredevil in the finals, we'll have to wait and see. Could be something surprising versus TCG, you never know. There will be the people out there who will likely want to see TCG lose, maybe, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. Otherwise, I've been Jebro. This is having a look at another NA. This is having a look at the NA side of things, because I don't tend to look at NA too much, and I want to try and get across both regions a lot more, because obviously EU is the region I cast. We're trying to get to know these guys and teams. Obviously, you know, Stormy Boy and the old Hurix there doing a fantastic job of casting those NA final series as well on the day. So I will see you at the finals on September 17th. There will be another 1 or 2 videos, hopefully, before I get away. But if not, I'll see you on the day, and take care. See you soon.